coming up today on the Nice Guys on Business.
More and more companies are waking up to the reality that it's a lot cheaper to keep a customer and to keep a customer happy than it is to lose a customer and then go out and try to find a new customer.
Oh, Toto, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. Well, except maybe the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Need an education on how to grow your business? The Nice Guys are here to help. Learn about great customer service, networking, and how just being nice can help you prosper. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
Hey, Nice Guy community, welcome back. It is Monday. My name is Strickland Bonner. I'm here to wake you up. And on the other side of the mic, it's Mr. Doug Sandler.
Hey, is this like morning drive time?
I hope so. Yeah, I think we're like the morning zoo, right?
Do you have a clue as to when most people listen to the podcast?
I have no freaking idea. I listen in the morning on my way in, but I don't know when other people listen.
Yeah, and I listen first thing in the morning before my whole day gets started. And then I notice another little tweak of downloads. So we go pretty hot and heavy first thing in the morning. 3 a.m. is when the podcast is released. And I think somewhere around like 7 or 8, it usually peaks pretty good. And then it dies for about 3 or 4 hours. So we're just getting maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 an hour at that point beyond that, which is still crazy to think that we get that. And then it's 6 p.m. again or 5 p.m. East Coast time. It starts to really swell again. I love it. I just love being able to watch the numbers. It's so cool. But we're not here to talk about numbers. We're here to talk about Pat Purdue today, aren't we?
Yeah, you're paying way too much attention to the numbers if you're watching it hour by hour.
I do. I do spend a lot of time worrying about, well, you know what? For me, it really is all about making sure that our customers, our listeners are happy. And that is also what it's about in Pat's world. It's all about the customer experience.
Good
How'd I do?
segue.
Like
Pat
that?
Purdue is the interview today, and his website and his company are socialicity.com. And really, he is all about the customer. And that's what we're all about. So obviously, he's a good fit with us. His company, it's where social media meets simplicity. So that's why it's called Socialicity.
I met Pat through a friend of ours, or a friend of mine, Mike Aoki, who is also in the customer service business. And then we started talking a little bit more about really the customer experience and what does it mean to have a positive customer experience, a negative customer experience, the touch points, the customer journey, all of those terms. And Pat really does delve really deep and dive really deep into understanding and help us understand why those things are so important, how to fix those things, how to make them so that they are right for your customers. He's a great trainer. He's a great speaker. He actually is a podcaster of his very own, and I was honored enough to be on his in one of his first, I think, 10 episodes. So interesting guy, really smart guy, very in tune to the customer experience, and I think that we should get a listen to his interview here. But before we do that, I think we have a sponsor today, don't we, Strick?
We do. Miss Julie Riesler, or Mrs. Ms. What the hell is it? I mean, she's married.
I think she's Mrs. But it doesn't really matter because she is. Well, it might matter to Heath, her husband,
but it doesn't matter to us. So Julie Riesler, if you didn't hear a couple weeks ago at our interview, get a PhD in you. You got to read this book to get in touch with you and who you are and realize who you are and see your own blind spots. Doug, don't we have some like testimonials, right?
Yeah. When we were at the book signing just last week, I had an opportunity to interview a handful of people that were really in the know about what it took for Julie to put together this book and talk about her relationships with them and what they meant in the book. So why don't we take a second, listen to one of those interviews here, and if you want to get a copy of Julie's book, it's getaphdinu.com if I remember correctly. Is that right, Strick?
That is correct. It's also in the show notes. So check it out. And let's see what her friends and other people who have read the book and who were at the book signing have to say about Get a PhD in You.
All right, we're talking with Kate Ekman, and Kate is a friend through writing to her book, the Get a PhD in You, and I wanted Kate just to maybe share just a moment or two with how you guys originally connected. I think it was through a piece of writing that you actually created, so why don't you give us that story, Kate?
Yes, I wrote an article for Mind Body Green in the Huffington Post about being publicly body shamed actually while working as a size 12 swimsuit model, and I just really wrote from the heart and shared my vulnerability and the pain that I felt, but also instead of attacking the people who had negative things to say, I really looked at them with a sense of compassion and love because they are obviously not feeling great about themselves. And so Julie actually stumbled upon or read the article and took the time to reach out to me and express how much my article and my words meant to her and how they resonated with her. And she's just like, I literally felt your heart on paper, and thank you so much for sharing that. It just shows me who Julie is, what she's all about, the realness, the authenticity, the women empowerment, the living an empowered life, and really women lifting each other up and supporting each other's successes. That's why it's such a joy for me to be here tonight and celebrating the launch of her book, Get a PhD in You, because I believe in her so much, and it's just so much substance and not all this fluff. And she's the real deal.
Oh yeah, so that's really what the book is all about. And
well, more importantly, that's what Julie's all about, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, she lives it, she breathes it, she's all about it. I had never met her before the book signing, and she is kind of amazing. Get a PhD in You is the website, and you can get the book right there. You can click on the show notes; it's right there. But right now, let's get to the interview. What do you think, Doug?
All right, let's do it. Pat Purdue on the Nice Guys on Business podcast, right here. Today, it's all things customer experience. You may or may not even know that term, but you certainly will know how important it is after you listen to my friend and fellow entrepreneur, podcaster, and all-around nice guy, Pat Purdue, as he shares his story today on the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Welcome to the podcast. Finally, Pat.
Thank you so much, Doug. It's a delight to be here, and thank you very much for that kind introduction. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my mom writes all the introductions, so I'm hoping that she's doing a really good job. You know,
shout out to Mom for sure.
I gotta keep her employed. I mean, I've been paying her for the last 20 years. My accountant keeps telling me I've got to hide some of this money. So, yeah. Do you ever have that problem, Pat? You just can't figure out what to do with all of your money?
That's not a problem. I've not leap into mind. Sorry, it's a problem I'd love to have. Maybe in a couple of years, but so far, no.
You just keep your podcast going, and I guarantee you, Strick and I, we're just trying to figure out all the ways in which to hide our money. No, that is not even close to true. I think we've made 12 cents from the show, but we're enjoying it.
It's beer money, really. It's beer money.
It truly is. It truly is. So let's start with some definitions, Pat. Customer experience, that sounds pretty straightforward, but it's different than customer service. So why don't we define that for the nice guy community?
Sure. Thanks, Doug. Yeah. And we all, lots of us have heard the term customer service, right? And typically we experience customer service when something goes wrong with the company that we're working with. Like it could be something, we bought something and it's not working the way we thought it would work. Maybe, maybe we signed up for a television plan or a cell phone plan or something, and we have a question about it. We're confused by something. Mm-hmm. So something is a little bit off the rails. So we might pick up the phone and call somebody, and then, we might get great service out of that call. And so we'll think about that as customer service. But what drove that call in the first place? It could have been maybe a disconnect with our experience of the brand or experience of the company that caused a problem, caused an inhibitor for us to want to do business with them. So we had to call and fix that relationship. So overall, from a big picture, that's a bit of a customer experience fail because something went wrong that caused us as a customer to pick up the phone and reach out to them. So so transactionally, from transaction to transaction, that can be customer service, but customer experience is the sum total of the multiple transactions that we might have with an organization, and really from different touch points. Could be from their website, could be from picking up the phone and giving them a call, or it could even be walking into their store, or even, opening the box. Like, how is that? Does that make me feel really good about my decision to purchase from that company? So all of that together is customer experience.
And it's interesting you say that, and we'll bring this point up in just a few minutes. But you mentioned this key word, these terms that I've used many times before, and it is the touch points that a company has. But before we get into that, let's stay within customer experience and how this works exactly. Doesn't customer experience really help define what a company's brand is all about?
It really can. It's they talk the talk, but they have to walk the walk. And back when I used to work in an ad agency before I started Socialicity Media, it was my conversation to our clients. I would say, you've come to us to help you make a promise. It's my role in this conversation to help you keep that promise. And that's really what customer experience is all about, is keeping that promise, that brand promise to its customers. And once you break that promise, then you lose trust, and customers are at risk of going to your competition.
So the experience really comes to life with each and every touch point a customer has with your brand. So do a couple of things for me. Tell
Sure.
the Nice Guy community what a touch point is. I mean, it might sound obvious, but let's just share that. And then can you share some examples of how those touch points can really make or break the customer experience?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So a touch point is let's say you're starting a relationship with a bank. Let's say so you might walk into the bank. So you walk into the branch because you want to open a bank account. So you walk into the branch, you're standing in line. That might be the first sort of experience of the touch point. And the big picture touch point here is your experience in the branch. And it can all be defined in different things. Like, how long did you stand in line for? And then finally, you're going to be talking to the teller. Well, how was that person? Was that person knowledgeable? Was that person friendly? Sort of validating your decision to join this bank, to set up an account with the bank. So that would be considered one touch point. So let's say you've completed that process and you set up an account with the bank. So you might get something in the mail. Well, whatever you get in the mail, does it use your name or does it say "Dear Customer"? If it says "Dear Customer," that might piss you off. So that's a second touch point that can be a bit of a fail. Or maybe you get something in the mail or it's an email that really speaks to you. It really adds value to the experience and makes you say, wow, these people kind of really get me. That's really neat. And so that continues to add value and add momentum to your relationship with that company. So we've had 2 touch points now. Well, let's say you want to open a credit card, or you want to get a credit card with that bank. So you don't really want to go to the branch again. So you'll pick up the phone and give them a call. That's a third touch point. Mm-hmm. And in that process, how easy is it for you to set up to start a credit card with the bank? Is it easy? Do they make it really difficult? And what are the perks of the credit cards and the different options? So that, again, is another touch point. And the sum total of all those together can equal customer experience. And the organizations that really have that solid are able to link up each of those departments, for lack of a better word, to have them sort of connect to each other. So every time you call, even if you're talking to a different department, or you might be using the bank's web app or app for your smartphone, mm-hmm. then the better that all of those can connect to previous conversations or previous interactions, even with different touch points, the better the overall cohesiveness of the experience is going to be, and the better you'll feel about doing business with that company.
What's interesting is all of the things that you mentioned, and I'm not saying this is out of character for how companies look at it, because I think this is exactly how companies look at it. They look at it and they say, okay, well, how was the web app, and how was in the case of your bank example, how was the web app, how was the line, how was the teller, how was the credit card experience? I even take it when I do some consulting with organizations, I take it to them and I just say, it's not just the how was the teller, how was the web app, how was the credit card experience, how was that experience within the branch. I even say things like, when somebody walked into your door, was your left door and your right door open? Some companies that only have their right door open and not their left door. It's like, wow. How's the parking lot look? How does the bathroom look? When you go into the bathroom, do you have to put your paper towel into a trash can that's overflowing with paper towels? While that has nothing to do with the
transaction. Yeah,
the transaction. It has everything. For me, I'm a really touchy-feely guy. So when I walk into a restaurant, if I'm not walking into a clean restroom when I go there, I oftentimes will think, is this the restaurant where I really trust the quality of the food?
Yeah, and not to dwell too much on bathrooms, but that very point of going into using I'm Canadian, so we call them washrooms. So going into the washroom of a restaurant, and if it's spectacular, then you come back and you're like, whoa, check out the washrooms. This place is
right, exactly.
And suddenly it may change or reinforce your whole perception of that place simply because they paid attention to that one detail.
Right, exactly. Okay, so you mentioned in some of your writing, and I've read a bunch of the stuff that you've put out there. Excellent job, by the way. You mentioned in some of your writing the importance of the customer experience mindset. So can you share what that is and help it make sense by providing, again, an example or two to a real life entrepreneur rather than maybe a bank or a cell phone company or a utility company? Sure, we want to, as a customer, have a positive experience with those organizations, but bring it down to the level of of all of us that are just like yourself, Pat. We're all entrepreneurs. So share how that is and talk about the customer experience mindset.
Sure, absolutely. So so again, we can all relate to the example of the bank, and we're all customers, right? So the customer experience mindset as an organization or an individual entrepreneur who has customers, our ability to think like they would think and really be I'll throw another term at you, customer centric. Mm-hmm, and what that really means is really, really thinking with your customers in mind. And often what that means is that we're able to anticipate, because we've been down this road before, presumably, so we're able to anticipate the needs of our customers based on sort of what they're doing. And a great example is, let's go back to the restaurant, where if you had a really, really fabulous restaurant. I remember I was in Tokyo a bunch of years ago with some of my colleagues, and we were sitting at a really nice restaurant in Tokyo. And it was a hotel restaurant. So we were sitting, chatting. We were waiting for other colleagues to join us. So we had water, glasses of water with ice cubes in them. Mm-hmm. Well, we were sipping our water, and as the ice cubes were melting, the waiter came by and swapped out our glasses with new glasses that had fresh ice in them. So it wasn't that we had to wait for water. We finished our water. They were monitoring the melt rate of our ice cubes.
Okay.
So that's being really customer centric. So the thinking is, and thinking like having the customer mindset is that, well, those people sitting in the restaurant, they want to have cold water to sip.
And what's so interesting about what you're saying is that, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just insert a personal experience here.
Yep.
Whenever I go to a restaurant and let's say I order iced tea, and the iced tea sometimes is warm as it comes out, so they put a whole bunch of ice in a glass and they pour the iced tea on top of it. And the next time they come back, they'll pour the iced tea on top of the iced tea that's already in there, which could potentially still be warm. So you still have, then you get no ice and you have like lukewarm iced tea. I'm like, why did you just put warm iced tea into my cold iced tea? You've kind of wrecked the experience. And while it doesn't say necessarily anything about the restaurant, it speaks volumes about the training that the restaurant, puts into play.
The training and the thinking, are they checking off the box of, yes, I gave you iced tea?
Yes.
Or are they really concerned with how that's going to be for you? Like, is it going to be, we call it iced tea on the menu, but are we really serving lukewarm tea? And just being aware of those nuances as a customer is really crucial. And for entrepreneurs, it's really hard because it's not like we can pretend to be a customer and mystery shop our own service, right? Because for many of us, we're a solo act.
Right.
So trying to be really as empathetic and as customer centric in our thinking as possible as an entrepreneur is really crucial. And that can boil right down to, from a tactical level, to anticipating questions that might arise from an email I'm sending and proactively responding to those questions in the body of that same email. Might be like, here are some questions you might have, and then answering those questions proactively, or just something like that, just to make it easier for our customers to do business with us.
Some of the big brands that understand this are companies like Southwest Air and Zappos and Ritz-Carlton. I mean, they really get it. It's not just coincidental that they happen to stumble onto a positive customer experience. Procedures as a part of their day. They actively go after the best possible customer experience possible. Do you see that the same way? I mean, do they
100%?
So they're customer centric, customer experience centric in their processes.
Absolutely, processes, training, recruiting, recognition in terms of like staff recognition. It's all about being customer centric, and even the measurement of customer experience. Your community might be familiar with the emails that we get after we do business with an organization, and sort of the standard. The industry standards is what's called Net Promoter Score, NPS.
Right.
And so and the simple question is, what's the likelihood that you would recommend this business or service to your friends and family. And you can score it from 1 to 5, 5 being absolutely 100% I will recommend, and 1 being not on your life would I recommend this. And organizations like the ones you just mentioned live and breathe along the results of that survey. And oftentimes anything less than a 90% likelihood to recommend can raise alarm bells with some of these organizations that something needs to change, or somewhere along what's called the customer journey, which is sort of a series of touch points. Mm-hmm. Somewhere along the line of that customer journey, there was a disconnect. We have to find out where that disconnect happened and fix it, and see if we have to fix it for our processes so that we never have that experience again.
Well, you're assuming, Pat, as many companies probably would, but I know that in being a part of many organizations in my past, because not many people want to keep me around as an employee very long, it's like, hey, we're sending in surveys, Mr. Company that we hired to do a job. Why aren't you reading them? Because that's really the thing that I get on the tail end of it is I'm actually taking my time to fill out a survey. Does anybody ever want to talk to me? You know, I write at the end of the survey, if you would like to chat with me about my answers, I'm more than happy to have a conversation, not just through email. I don't think I've ever been taken up on the opportunity to talk to a company that I've had a poor customer service experience with. You know, where I fill out a survey and they right. So maybe this is an obvious answer. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
Oh, I was just going to say, and the thing about surveys is that's another touch point, and it creates cynicism, and those people wreck it for all the companies whose heart is really in the game, right. And they do want your opinion, but you've been cynicized by these other surveys that they're just, again, checking off the box that yes, I sent out a survey, and they don't read them, or they have like an automated algorithm that collects and collates the surveys, but it needs to be tweaked, and they're not looking at comments, and they really should be. Like, if there's a comment box, then they're implicitly making an agreement with you. They're saying, we're providing this space. If you enter words in this space, we will read those words. Right. That's the deal. Right. And failing that is a failure to service that particular touch point, and they kind of wreck it for everybody else.
And speaking of like a customer experience and how frustrating it can potentially be, and I'll use I won't mention any names. It rhymes with Care First. I had an experience with my health insurance company where literally nothing in the call went right. I mean, everything was I had an issue with billing. The billing issue did not get resolved, and I had an issue with the person that I was talking to that they just couldn't follow me. I'm looking at something on my computer screen that they don't even have access on their side. So I said,
too bad.
So at the end of the phone call, literally, and I do apologize if Care First has been a Blue Cross and Blue Shield has been a client of yours, Pat, but since this is my show, I'll say whatever the fuck I want.
Go for it.
So sorry, Pat, I know I don't mean to associate you with anything bad on the show here, but you're the one that
I'm here to make it better. I'm here to make it better.
You volunteered to be on the show, so okay, so here we are. So in order to get through the end of the call, she was a very nice person, but she wasn't able to provide me with any answers. But I guess there's a check mark at the end of the call that says, ask your customer if all of the problems that they brought today were resolved. So the question that she asked me at the end of the call, and I couldn't freaking believe it, she said, was I able to satisfactorily answer all of the questions that you had before you made the call today? And I said to her, pardon my French, Pat, I said, no, you fucking didn't. I said, I don't get it. Why would you even ask me that question? You know that I'm hanging up, not having it resolved. Why are you asking me a question so you can just check off a box?
Right. And there's a real good answer to that.
What is the answer to that? I'm really curious.
The answer is because somebody somewhere has said at the end of every call, we need to ask that question. And they have said, your job to this person that you're speaking to, your job security depends on whether or not you ask that on every call. Somebody's standing somebody's standing right behind her while she's having the conversation with you. And then, so she knows that she needs to ask this question, even though she knows full well that she wasn't able to provide you with any of the service that you called for in the first place. So what occasionally some organizations do is they, it's not all the time is it economically feasible for organizations to solve some of these customer experience challenges. So they'll leave a process a little bit broken, knowing that once you encounter the breakage, you're going to call in as a customer, you're going to complain about it, and they're going to do what they can to fix it on an ad hoc basis. So really what they're doing, and this is so common, and it breaks my heart every time.
It's horrible. What you're about to say is horrible.
You know what? So what they do, they bake in deficiencies in the experience, knowing that the weight and the cost of that experience and the discomfort is going to be put on the call center agent's shoulders, who's making $8.50, $9, $10, $12, whatever it is they're making an hour, and they're there to take the bullets for a bit of a cynical mindset organizationally to bake in customer experience fails, knowing that it's cheaper to do that than fix the problem in the first place. And one really good example from your example was the fact that the agent that you were talking to didn't have access to the information that you had an issue with that was on your screen, but she herself wasn't able to get there.
Yeah.
Well, that's an investment in technology that this company has decided not to make, knowing that she's going to take heat for this every time somebody with your experience calls. And so she's like, probably kind of wincing her way through that call, knowing that she had no way to help you, but there's no way she can say, well, you know what, I can't help you with that. So she's going to do her best, and it's going to be an epic fail. It's heartbreaking and all too common, unfortunately.
The answer might be obvious, and it could be money, and that probably is going to be the answer to the question. But why don't most companies work towards this customer-centric, customer experience-centric attitude? What is wrong with them?
Well, what the hell's wrong with that?
There you go. Finally, I riled Pat Purdue up a little bit.
Exactly. So the good news is more and more companies, this is why, what keeps me in business, more and more companies are waking up to the reality that it's a lot cheaper to keep a customer and to keep a customer happy. So you'll be telling a good news story of this company rather than a bad news story. It's a lot cheaper to do that than it is to lose a customer and then go out and try to find a new customer. Mm-hmm. So the profit, I guess the paradigm of profit is shifting a little bit now. So thankfully it's not as prevalent as it was, say, 5 or 10 years ago in terms of horrible customer experiences. But the answer to your question is, why doesn't every company do it? Some companies think they do, because there could be a lot of yes people within the organization, and they're just looking at the wrong metrics. They're not sitting beside their agents and hearing that experience. They're not talking to the agents who are the customer service and customer experience experts in any organization, are the call center and sales and customer service agents on the front line. They know the business. They know the customer experience better than anyone in the company. So if the senior management isn't spending time with them, then they're missing some really good opportunities to gain some information. So another answer might be they think they are and they're not. And the third answer could be money. They know they're not, and quite frankly, it's just not in their financial interest to do that. So that's a company that you just got to cut loose and make it their financial interest to provide good customer experience. And what that means is finding someplace else to do business with.
Yeah, the consumer ultimately has control over the customer experience, and that you can take your dollars somewhere else to a company that's going to actually provide you a customer experience that's worthwhile. We've talked a lot about some of the bigger companies, but let's talk just for a second, and then we'll move on to the final round of this, the rapid fire Q&A that I have for you. How can a small company looking to get and grow their customers to create some sort of buzz about a great customer experience, how can a small company looking to grow get their customers to create some of the buzz for them? Because ultimately, I think the best way to grow your business is through word of mouth with people having a good customer experience. So how do you get your customers to help you with the buzz of your customer experience?
What a great question, Doug. That's something that I talk about from time to time. And the small companies have such a huge advantage over their behemothing counterparts, right? So for a massive organization, it's really, really hard to redirect that ship and suddenly become customer centric. For a smaller organization, it's a lot easier. And so answer to your question, how do you socialize those fabulous customer experience at the different touch points? Well, social media is your best friend. So if you can engage your customers via social media at every possible opportunity, then that's really, and the downside is that it can be really time consuming and it requires a bit of a specialized skill set. But other than that, if you can sort of solve that puzzle, then engaging your customers that way is really the best way. So they'll respond by saying, wow, you guys rock. I love you guys. And then you can take all that stuff, put it on your website. So there might be a continuous feed of your customers singing your praises. And so if I visit your website, and it's really not that hard to do, it might be a WordPress website with a Twitter widget in there, something like that. So if I visit your website and I see all this love between customers and the company, as a potential customer, I'm thinking, wow, I want some of that.
Right.
I want that. I want in on that party. And what I found is a lot of people are willing to pay a little bit more. The right people are the customers that you want are willing to pay a little bit more for that kind of experience. And why I say it's the customers that you want is because the last thing you want to do is get a customer that's going to price shop or get into a price war or try to negotiate you down to something that's not profitable. So the customers that value that kind of connection will find their way to you. And it just becomes a cycle of you providing great service to customers that really appreciate that service. They tell you, and you appreciate them back, and it's just a whole cycle of love.
I love the topic. It's such a topic that's near and dear to my heart. We are talking to Pat Purdue, and Pat is a customer experience extraordinaire. Pat, what's the name officially of your company? Is it just Pat Purdue?
Oh, it's Socialicity Media is the name of the company, and Pat Purdue is sort of me going out there with my podcast and stuff like that. Because oftentimes, you touched on a point earlier in our conversation, Doug, around you prior to, I guess, you're going on your own. You wouldn't stay at a position for very long, and I'm the same way.
It was not by my choice, though, Pat.
Okay. I think you're being modest, but for me, it was largely the same way, and so I even dubbed it. I was a serial employee, where I would work at a company for a couple of years, and quite frankly, I would get bored. I would have made whatever changes and done whatever I had done, and then I'd go to a different company and promote myself into something else there, do the same thing. So
I hope at this point in my career, as you probably hope, you are gainfully unemployable. The only person that would actually hire you is you.
I know it's kind of frightening, because as this. I can make my own hours, which sometimes can be craziness. Sometimes it means that I'm working 18 hours in a day.
Right.
But at the same time, I get to, there's the freedoms that come with being self-employed. And what I was going to touch on is that the Pat Purdue question. To be honest with you, a lot of my clients have found their way to me because I was a serial employee, and something will go wrong in the customer experience or a touch point that will bubble up fairly senior, and somebody says, can we just get Pat in here? Let's just get Pat in here to fix this. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's, if people are saying that, then why don't I just have Pat Purdue out there? So
no, I totally agree. Do me a favor, take off your customer experience hat for a second and put on your entrepreneur hat, because the next several questions I'm going to ask you, and these are rapid fire, so I'm only going to give you 15 or 20 seconds to answer each one of these. You got this. I know you got this.
I'm kind of nervous.
No, don't be nervous. I know you got this for sure. You're a friend of mine, and I've seen you operate. You work well under pressure. So
thank you.
I'm going to ask you a handful of questions. I just want you to give your entrepreneurial business owner answer to these, so that my Nice Guy community can see exactly how in tune to them you are, because you are living the same world that we're all living in right now. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
I'm ready. Bring it on.
Be relatable, Pat. What do you suck at?
What do I suck at? Oh, that's such a hard question. I suck at boundaries. So as an entrepreneur, I'm a pleaser by nature. I want to make my client happy. So what I've learned the hard way is really clearly defining where my formal engagement stops and where my desire to fix everything begins. So I had to learn the hard way to really, really carefully define the problems that I'm solving and the tactics I'm going to use to solve that problem, and then stick to that. So that's kind of what I suck at.
Nicely done. Be transparent. How did you pay your bills when you first got going?
I was really lucky my first client was my last employee. So, but was my last employer. So, so when I first got going, I left to start Socialicity Media, and my first client was my employee, the ad agency that I was working with prior to leaving. So I was really lucky. So I would, I'd be happy to say I was working, at a Starbucks and whatever, and just doing what I can to get going. But thankfully, I had some luck there.
Excellent. So, fellow entrepreneurs that are out there, don't discount the fact that the company that you're working for now might be your client, and that's the other side. The other reason why you never want to burn a bridge when you leave anywhere. Leave that relationship intact and in good shape.
You got it.
All right, Pat. Be confident. What do you do as an entrepreneur that's as good as it gets?
As good as it gets. I would say in terms of presenting in front of a group, I blow the roof off places. So and I love that. It's not something that it's not the meat and potatoes of of what I do, but when I get in front of a room of 100 or 200 people, then I have a great time and everybody else has a great time, and I always guarantee some very specific takeaways. So I would say I'm pretty well as good as it gets in that regard.
Nice. All right, be humble. What experts do you need to call upon to make shit happen when shit's not happening? Big complex problems. I'm very tactical in my thinking, and it probably came out in our conversation where what do people say? What do people do? Where do people click on? Like what are the very specific hooks that I need to focus on to connect my customer experiences and my different touch points? But the big picture organizational strategy of what are we going to do as a company, that's just not how my mind works. So that's what I'm going to bring in, external expertise. Be realistic. This is the second to last one. Be realistic. Where are you going to be in 90 days, and how far into the future do you think you can actually see?
Not very far, to be honest with you. I know I'm going to be, there's some very specific principles I have for my company, and I know I'll be there in 90 days because that's where I am. One is to have conversations that interest me, and that's one of the things that prompted me to launch Socialicity, is that I wanted the luxury to have conversations that excited me, which means I'm not good in meetings. If there's a lot of boring positioning, I'm just going to check right out. So in 90 days, I'm going to still be having conversations that interest me. Now, the downside of that, and following my curiosity, the downside of that is it requires being agile and nimble. So the problems that I'm solving today may not be the same problems that I'm solving tomorrow. They'll kind of look the same, but there may be nuances that are different. So it's hard for me to see really deep into the future in terms of the kind of conversations that I'll be having. I don't know if that was a great answer.
No, that's great. You exceeded the time limit, though. I cut you off after 15 seconds. So no, good answer though.
Just like an orchestra starting to play as I drone on, like the Academy Awards.
I was going to say, good answer. Keep your answer short. All right, and last one, Pat. I'm just kidding you. Actually, it's really challenging that I same way. I can see about 90 days. I can see about as far as my checkbook will carry me, and then beyond that, I really have a tough time in the long range planning, and maybe I just need to work more at that, or maybe not. I don't know.
I would suggest don't change that. Keep nimble.
As a last one, as a business owner and an entrepreneur, put these into priority order. Are you ready? So employees, customers, products, systems. So your 4R, put these in order in priority. The first one being the highest priority. Employees, customers, products, systems.
Employees first, 100%. Didn't even have to blink an eye on that one. If I look after my employees, then everything looks after itself. Customers fall into play. I'm going to be looking after my customers. The conversations between my employees and my customers are going to tell me about all the products, the product nuances, and the systems I need to put in place to solve the problems or deliver whatever products I need to do so to my customers to keep them happy. So that's the sequence, I think. Employees, customers, products, and then processes.
All right. So I actually had them in the right order, at least the right order based upon your thinking as well. So excellent job. Neat. Do you have a moment for a personal question, and then we will wrap up here?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. You have your cell phone anywhere near you?
I have my cell phone near me, yes.
Excellent. Do you have an iPhone or something inferior?
None of the above. I have a Galaxy.
Strickland will be so happy. This is the second interview in a row where we've had two non-iPhone users. So go to your texting app. What is the last text message you sent and received?
All right. It was actually reaching out to a former colleague of the last organization that I'm working at, the ad agency, arranging for us to get together for lunch sometime next week. So it speaks to, and here's something I always do. I take great effort to keep in touch with colleagues that I worked with at former companies, and this is one example.
I think that's a great example. And go to your picture app and tell me what is the last thing you took a photo of.
Okay, let me see.
Keep it PG-13 or better. No, you don't have to.
It's not going to be nearly that interesting. Okay, I'm just bringing up my pictures now.
Just keep in mind, I had a few weeks ago, actually probably a month or so ago by the time that this airs, I had a dominatrix, and she took a picture of, so I don't even want to tell you.
Really, much more interesting than my answer, I tell you. So thanks for that, Doug. I got to follow that with wait for it, a picture of my cat. Yep, I'm that guy.
Wait, Pat, you're not a cat lady, are you?
None of the above. Cats are fabulous. I love cats. I love dogs too. I happen to have cats. So so here's a picture of my cat, Lady Dahlia. Yeah, that really is her name.
Yeah, you are totally you're a cat lady.
And she helps me type my emails. Yeah, I could go on and on and on. I'm just embarrassing myself now.
So Pat, tell our listening community, the Nice Guy community, if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Since we've been using Pat Purdue, then if you hit me up on my website, patpurdue.com, that's really where my podcast lives.
Okay.
Pat Purdue's Customer Experience Podcast. Not really an original name, but it's the one I got. And or Twitter. My Twitter handle is really straightforward. It's at Pat Purdue, and I'm on Twitter very frequently. So if you want to give me a shout out on Twitter, I will reply and I will follow you back if you give me a follow.
Awesome. And you are really good on social media. I have to tell you, I followed you for the last couple of years, and we do have a lot of good chats back and forth, and or at least your robot is chatting very nicely. I don't have a robot, but I'm chatting very nicely with your robot over the last couple of years.
Thank you. I'll send I'll program my regards to you via my artificial intelligence machine.
Oh, awesome!
No, it's really me. It is really me. It is really me.
No, it totally is. It totally is.
The intelligence may be artificial, but it actually is me doing the tweets.
Nice Guy community. I will make sure that we put all the information about how to get in touch with Pat right in our show notes. His Twitter handle, his website, and all of the fun stuff about his company as well. Pat, thanks for being a part of the show today.
Doug, I had a great time. I've been looking forward to this conversation. As you know, I'm a big fan of yours, and I've learned tremendously from you and from your experience. So kudos to the great work that you're doing as well.
Oh, wow. Well, thanks, Pat. Well, you sure have just earned an invite coming back to the show again.
Yes.
Nice Guy community. Never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Pat Purdue for being on the show. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
The Nice Guys want to hear from you. Call 4242 DJ Doug and ask any questions you like. Well, except about the cloud. Nobody understands the cloud. Don't bring up Santa Claus either. Doug's still a believer.